How's it going, guys and girls? Hope you guys are having a great week. So this video is going to be focused mostly on Star Wars or Battlefront 2, but also the whole loot box controversy happening at the moment, microtransactions, pay to win, that kind of thing, because we're seeing a trend in the gaming industry at the moment which is heavily concerning for me, and it's something that really bothers me, and it's something that I want to talk about and want to sort of give my opinion on it and generally see what you guys think on this. So Star Wars Battlefront 2 is coming out on Friday, on the 17th of November. If you don't know, it's by Motive Studios or EA Dice, and it's going to be available on PlayStation 4, PC and Xbox One. Now, for those of you that have Origins, you can get early access to the game, and you know, quite a few people have been playing it for a few days, and there have been some opinions out there and some initial reviews already put out there. And I have to say, the first few days leading up to the release have been an absolute PR nightmare for EA, and with good reason. So many of you know that when the beta hit, there was a lot of concern with regards to the loot box system in Battlefront 2 and how it was so heavily tied into progression, and it really seemed like a pay-to-win system. Now, EA and DICE reassured gamers, and they did make some changes to it, and they sort of said that particular star cards, like the exotic star cards that give you sort of 3 and 4 tier abilities, that those you would not be able to get from loot boxes, but you would earn them through completing certain challenges, and you'd have to craft them by actually playing the game. So that seemed to die down quite a bit, but then when a lot of people were paying the early access, they were talking about the number of credits required to actually unlock some main characters within the multiplayer, and just how everything seemed locked behind a paywall, and that there was just so much grinding required to progress in the game, that this was really a sneaky, underhanded way for EA to encourage people to spend money so they can shorten the time needed to gain those characters. So to give you an example, Luke and Vader, probably two of the most popular characters, and probably two of the reasons you'd be buying Battlefront, because everybody wants to play as their favorite heroes or villains. These characters would cost you a whopping 60,000 credits each to unlock for use in the multiplayer. Now, if we take into account the amount of time it would take to build up those credits, and that is by not spending any in loot boxes all the way through, you're looking at it taking over 40 hours just to unlock one character. Now, other characters like Palpatine, Leia and Chewbacca of course are cheaper, but they still come in at a whopping 40,000 credits, and then the main character from the story campaign, Iden Versio, costs a relatively cheap amount of 20,000 credits. So everybody was up in outrage with regards to this, and they were just saying that this was a really sneaky way of EA to try to force people to spend actual real money to speed up their progression. Now, EA responded to these criticisms on Reddit in an official statement, which was a PR nightmare, and they basically said that their intent by having such a high cap in terms of credits was to, and I quote here directly, provide players with a sense of pride and accomplishment for unlocking different heroes. As for cost, we selected initial values based upon the data from the open beta and other adjustments made to milestone rewards before launch. Among other things, we're looking at average per player credit earn rates on a daily basis, and we'll be making constant adjustments to ensure that players have challenges that are compelling, rewarding, and of course attainable via gameplay. Well, mine and everybody's response to that statement was complete and utter bullshit, basically, and the response to it was not surprising. There was a massive influx of people that downvoted this statement, and it's actually now made some history, and is the largest downvoted statement or comment in Reddit's history. I think at the moment it's got over 600 to 700,000 dislikes, and that's incredible when the highest downvoted comment prior to that was rocking in at somewhere like 25,000. So of course this was a huge PR nightmare for EA. Now EA backpedaled very quickly when they realized this, and they have actually reduced these amounts now by 75%. So Luke and Vader will now only cost you 15,000 credits each. But they have also reduced the value of rewards that you get through completing certain challenges. So for example, if you play and complete the main story campaign, previously you would get about 20,000 credits. Now you only get 5,000. So yes, they have reduced the cost of these credits, but they're also reduced the rewards for credits that you get through completing certain challenges. So again, giving with one hand and taking away with another hand. I just think generally the gaming community are fed up and tired of loot boxes in general and all the microtransaction bullshit. Now, microtransactions are not new. We've had them for several years, and to be fair, we're kind of in this situation. Mostly, it's kind of our own fault to a degree, because we have continually, and I'm not saying everybody has, I know some people do not buy season passes, do not pre-order games. I myself am one of those people. I do not partake in microtransactions. I do not buy them. But there are quite a number of people out there that do purchase microtransactions, that do buy the season pass before the game's even been released, before they even know what they're buying. They will slap down £30 on top of a game that already costs them £50, and they're giving that money straight to the producer and of course the developers, mostly the producers though. And it is a problem, and it's something that we've kind of perpetuated because we haven't really been speaking with our wallets for the most part. Some people have, but most gamers have kind of let EA and Activision and Ubisoft get away with this shit. We've let them increasingly put microtransactions into games and season passes that now cost you the same price as a full game when you buy it. And it's kind of our own fault to a degree because we haven't really put our foot down. I think this is the first case where gamers are actually saying, do you know what? Enough's enough. This is absolutely ridiculous. We don't want loot boxes in our games. Loot boxes are completely acceptable if they're in a free-to-play game situation or if they're cosmetic, kind of like Overwatch. But there have been so many games that have come out recently. EA, for example, we're looking at Battlefront 2. That has obviously a massive loot box system and microtransactions. Need for Speed Payback also has loot box. It has cards which you use to customize and upgrade your vehicles. That is completely loot box related, completely randomly generated, and very much tied to progression. Activision introduced loot boxes or loot crates in Call of Duty World War II. Warner Brothers introduced it in Shadow of War, and it was heavily tied to progression, particularly towards the end of the game. Now, you could pretty much play and complete the story and most of the game without having to use loot boxes, without having to sort of spend any cash. But towards the end of the game and in the end game scenario, there is a lot of grinding involved in getting to that final cutscene, that hidden locked cutscene behind all of this kind of grinding and capturing orcs and taking down forts and whatnot. And as you get towards the end game, it becomes more difficult because you have to fight and defend your fortresses against opponent players, which could be at level 30, level 40, and it's much easier if you spend money and get those legendary orcs in crates. So they are designed to encourage you to spend your money to speed up your progress so that you can play the game to the speed that you want, and obviously do that. Even if we look at Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed Origins, there are microtransactions heavily in that. There's a store where you can buy weapons, and you can also buy skins and armor and things like that. That's absolutely fine. But there's a whole section where you can basically buy crafting materials, where you can buy money to use in game to upgrade your weapons, where you can buy map packs that will show you where to find all of the tombs, or where to find all of the stone circles. And it just takes away all that exploration part of the game, you know, just playing it and exploring it and playing it naturally, and overcoming those challenges yourself by playing the game. Is effectively like using cheat codes, where we used to use cheat codes years and years ago. That's pretty much what we're doing now, but we're just paying for it. So I think the problem is that a lot of developers now are trying to move away from season passes and more towards microtransactions and loot boxes. And you can see perhaps why they're doing this, because a lot of the free-to-play games, they make a lot of money on those microtransactions. Overwatch has made a ton of money on the loot boxes in that game, and all the kind of customization and skins and everything that you can get for the characters. They've made a ton of money. For EA, microtransactions is big business for them. I think they actually released a report recently on their sort of financial quota last year, and they sort of said that they make more money from microtransactions than they do from actually selling full games, which is absolutely insane. And that just shows you that there are people out there that are spending their money on these microtransactions, that are spending their money on season passes and pre-ordering and so on. And of course, you know what, these are companies, they're corporations, they're greedy, they're corrupt. All they're bothered about is making money, and unfortunately it is sacrificing these games. There have been so many game franchises that have been sacrificed because of these underhanded systems. I feel really bad for DICE, because when you look at Battlefront 2, it looks good. They responded to people's feedback, you know. It's got more content. It crosses all eras. It's now got a single player campaign. Now credit, it sounds like the campaign is too short for my liking. Apparently you can complete it in like 4 to 5 hours, kind of like with the Call of Duty games, and that's too short. And I was hoping for something a little bit longer, maybe at least 10 hours worth of a story. But, you know, they are putting things in there. And when I played the beta, it was a lot of fun. The weapons, the characters, battle points, all those things. You know, they're all good things. And it's clear that the people at DICE are passionate about this game and have put a lot of hard work and time into it. But then EA come along and they're like, you've got to put this in. We want loot boxes in there. We want microtransactions in there, and are forcing them to implement these kinds of systems. And it's happening across the board. You know, even in Deus Ex Mankind Divided, Square Enix forced them to add in microtransactions pretty much towards the end of that game's development. They had no intention of doing that beforehand. If we look at games that are going to come out in future, Red Dead Redemption 2 now is talking about using loot boxes. I'm pretty sure Anthem is going to have microtransactions in there as well. God, heaven forbid, it might even have loot box crates. It probably will. You know, it'll all be RNG. We'll open up loot boxes and we'll get some kind of weapons or skins or whatever from it. And it's just really, really annoying. And it's a topic that I'm just got to the point now where I'm tired of the way things are in the game industry. And I'm just tired of all this underhanded bull crap where they're not putting in, you know, attention to detail, and they're not focusing on things that matter, like creating a good game, a good story, games being an art form. It's just regurgitating the same old crap, making shortcuts, putting things, you know, locking content behind paywalls, loot boxes, microtransactions. It's just, everything is all about just making money. And it's hollow, it's heartless, and it's really disheartening, and it just really gets you down when you're as passionate about games as I am. And I love games so much, and I've played some amazing games in my time. It's really sad to see the industry going in this way. And I'll be honest with you guys, I was planning to buy Star Wars Battlefront 2. I was going to wait for reviews to come out on it, see what the story campaign's like. But I love Star Wars, and I am a huge Star Wars fan, and after playing the beta, the thought of going back into the Star Wars universe and being able to experience a brand new story that sort of crosses the divide between, Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, being able to play as Kylo Ren, or being able to play as Darth Vader or Luke or Leia or Rey, and just having these really epic moments and playing it with Dante. I was planning to do so. I was planning to get the game. I was going to trade in a bunch of games for it to be able to afford it. But do you know what? After all this bullshit with EA, enough's enough, guys. Enough is enough now. And I feel so angry about this, and so upset, and so disappointed, and so sick to my stomach that, you know what? I'm not buying anything. Fuck you, EA. I am not spending my money. I'm not reviewing anything. I'm not supporting this crap anymore. So I'm telling you now, guys. I know many of you might have wanted a review of Star Wars Battlefront 2. I completely understand. But at the end of the day, I have to myself. I cannot support this kind of practice. I cannot support this kind of bullshit. So I'm boycotting EA. I'm not buying any more EA games. Any game that's got any loot boxes in it, or really bad microtransactions, or anything like that, I'm not buying it. I'm not touching it. I'm not buying it. I will not support that kind of thing. And you know what? It really worries me, because BioWare are, partnered with EA, and I'm heavily concerned for BioWare's future, especially after the disappointment that was Mass Effect Andromeda, which it lacked heart like the original trilogy had. Of course, it did have some kind of microtransactions connected to it with the multiplayer, and sort of loot boxes connected with it as well. Well, not sort of, it did have loot boxes connected with it. But I'm really concerned. I'm so concerned for the future of BioWare, and I just think EA are a plague. I just think they're a plague. I think everything they touch, they just kill. They just kill. If we look at what they've done recently by closing down Visceral Games and just basically killing what could have been an amazing Star Wars game, which was focusing a story-based, single-player-based Star Wars game, they just killed Visceral Games. They just shut them down. Stop supporting it because they want to focus more on multiplayer games. Of course they want to focus more on multiplayer games because they can put microtransactions in there, they can put loot boxes in there, and they can make a ton of money from you and me. And you know what? I've had enough. I'm not doing it anymore. So I will not be buying Star Wars Battlefront 2. I'm not going to be supporting that. I'm going to wait and see. I'm going to keep an eye on it. I will see on what happens, and if they do turn around and do change completely, see how people respond to it. But I'm not getting that game when it comes out on Friday, and at the moment, I have no intention of buying the game at the moment. And you know what? That's fine. There's so many other games that I need to finish and complete and play. I might even buy Wolfenstein 2 because I've heard great things about it. I haven't played the first game, but I love the idea of the setting. And I've not played a really good first-person shooter in quite a while. So I might pick up Wolfenstein 1 and then Wolfenstein 2 and play those. I need to finish Zelda Breath of the Wild. I've also got the Horizon Zero Dawn Frozen Wilds DLC to play as well. So I've got lots of things to keep me entertained for quite a while. But I just wanted to say, don't support this, guys. Do not support anything that EA does. It, of course, is your own choice. It's your own choice. If you decide that you want to buy the game and you want to play it, and I get why you'd want to. I do understand completely, but it's your choice at the end of the day. If you choose to do that, then that's fine. That's your decision to make. But if you're like me and you're sick of all this bullshit, then speak up, right? Speak with your wallet. Don't buy anything. Don't touch anything. And then who knows, maybe if the sales plummet and the PR responses to this is damaging enough to EA and their stocks, then maybe they'll change their tune. Maybe they'll turn around and they go, do you know what? Maybe loot boxes won't work. Maybe microtransactions is not the way that we want to go. I have no problem with season passes so long as the content is worth the money that you're asking for it. That's all I say. I'm fine with DLC, you know. I don't buy season passes, but I will buy DLC content if I like the game and if I think the DLC expands upon that game in an interesting way and gives me value for money. And that's why I bought the Horizon Zero Dawn Frozen Wilds DLC, because that DLC I hear is 15 hours long. 15 hours long, and they're charging about £15 for it. There we go, right? That's the kind of developer that we want. And I'm not blaming Motive Studios or DICE, because I honestly don't think it's their fault. The blame here, guys, lies solely with EA and Activision and Warner Brothers and all those producers that all they want to do is make money. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the topic. I thought I'd just share it with you guys. Kind of went off on a bit of a tangent there, but you know what? Sometimes you just need to do this kind of video. Get it off your chest. Get your thoughts out there in whatever way they may come out there. Anyway, I hope you guys at least found the video interesting. Let me know what you guys think of this topic, what your thoughts are on Star Wars Battlefront 2, what your thoughts are in EA, what you're going to choose to do going forward. Anyway, hope you guys have a great week. Take care, and as always, happy gaming. Bye, guys. And they did make some changes to it, and they sort of said that particular star cards, like the exotic star cards that give you sort of 3 and 4 tier abilities, that those you would not be able to get from loot boxes, but you would earn them through completing certain challenges, and you'd have to craft them by actually playing the game. So that seemed to die down quite a bit, but then when a lot of people were paying the early access, they were talking about the number of credits required to actually unlock some main characters within the multiplayer, and just how everything seemed locked behind a paywall, and that there was just so. For those of you that have Origins, you can get early access to the game, and you know, quite a few people have been playing it for a few days, and there have been some opinions out there and some initial reviews already put out there. And I have to say, the first few days leading up to the release have been an absolute PR nightmare for EA, and with good reason. So many of you know that when the beta hit, there was a lot of concern with regards to the loot box system in Battlefront 2, and how it was so heavily tied into progression, and it really seemed like a pay-to-win system. Now, EA and DICE reassured gamers that it's taking over 40 hours just to unlock one character. Now, other characters like Palpatine, Leia, and Chewbacca, of course, are cheaper, but they still come in at a whopping 40,000 credits. And then the main character from the story campaign, Iden Versio, costs a relatively cheap amount of 20,000 credits. So everybody was up in outrage with regards to this, and they were just saying that this was a really sneaky way of EA to try to force people to spend actual real money to speed up their progression. Now, EA responded to these criticisms on Reddit in an official statement, which was a PR. Much grinding required to progress in the game, that this was really a sneaky, underhanded way for EA to encourage people to spend money so they can shorten the time needed to gain those characters. So to give you an example, Luke and Vader, probably two of the most popular characters, and probably two of the reasons you'd be buying Battlefront, because everybody wants to play as their favorite heroes or villains. These characters would cost you a whopping 60,000 credits each to unlock for use in the multiplayer. Now, if we take into account the amount of time it would take to build up those credits, and that is by not spending any in loot boxes all the way through. You're looking at... How's it going, guys and girls? Hope you guys are having a great week. So this video is going to be focused mostly on Star Wars or Battlefront 2, but also the whole loot box controversy happening at the moment, microtransactions, pay to win, that kind of thing, because we're seeing a trend in the gaming industry at the moment which is heavily concerning for me, and it's something that really bothers me, and it's something that I want to talk about and want to sort of give my opinion on it and generally see what you guys think on this. So Star Wars Battlefront 2 is coming out on Friday, on the 17th of November. If you don't know, it's by Motive Studios or EA Dice, and it's going to be available on PlayStation 4, PC and Xbox One. Now,